How's it going, guys? Today I'm going to be showing off my Moze Wick build. It's a build that's inspired upon never reloading and using the new skill tree. So let's get into this. Alright, so in the new skill tree, we're only really specing 9 points, and mainly we want to come down here and get this Explosive Fury, which gives us better status effect damage and better status effect chance. We're getting 3 into big surplus, this so that we deal bonus incendiary damage and when our action skill is cooling down. And then we got 3 into biofuel, this so we can get a little bit of health regen. In the blue tree, we're going to be going down and grabbing the capstone. Now you're going to want to avoid grabbing anything that can refuel or recharge a bear cub, because we want to have this 15% extra gun damage from big surplus, and that damage is only applied when Iron Bear is on cooldown. So the trick is to use your bear cub, and then as soon as it goes down, you're going to have about 15 to 20 seconds of bonus damage. Then you just throw your cub back out and rinse and repeat. That way we can keep this up as much as possible. But in the blue tree, it's a pretty simple basic blue tree. Everyone should know what's going on with this right now. Like I said, avoid anything like stainless steel bear or deadlines, and don't grab explosive punctuation. I know it seems a little bit redundant with how much ammo and grenade recharge Moze has, but I picked up the 3 into why can't I carry all these grenades to give me +3 grenades, because realistically I didn't know where else to put those 3 points list to get down here to get the capstone, because again, we don't want to recharge our action skill, we don't want to keep Iron Bear out long, so the only other option really was to pick up these 3. Now in the red tree, we're going to be picking up 5 out of 5 into Armored Infantry, and this going to give us bonus gun damage and damage reduction while our shields are active. And we'll get into the gear in a second, but we're running with a deathless, so our shields are pretty much always active. We're going to get 5 out of 5 into Vladov Ingenuity, and the reason why is because it provides us better shield recharge, some resistance to shock, but that 30% shield really helps out. We grab 5 out of 5 in Drowning in Brass. This can stack up to 3 times, but it's going to give you bonus gun damage, which is 20% per stack, and that's going to come out to 60% when you have all 3 stacks. And the fire rate's going to go down, which actually helps us out with the gun that we are using. But again, we'll get into gear in a second. We're going to get the 1 point in experimental munitions, so that way we do bonus incendiary damage whenever we score a crit. Now, unless you're aiming specifically for crits, this is going to mainly come into play when you are using your grenades, because you can crit with Moze's grenades. And then we want 3 into Desperate Measures, and we get 3 into here, so we pretty much constantly always have 50% gun damage, because we're running around at 1 health using that Deathless. And then in the green tree, we're going to get all of Cloud of Lead, so 5 points in here, and this so we get that bonus incendiary damage, and every 4 shots we don't consume ammo, pretty much making this a build that never reloads, hence the name Moze Wick. And then we're going to pick up 3 into Stoke the Embers, so that way we do bonus incendiary damage, which, I mean, everything that Moze does is incendiary damage, like Fire in the Skag's Den does incendiary damage. We got the experimental munitions doing incendiary damage, and Cloud of Lead, so this synergizes really well. And then we pick up redistribution, so that way we don't really ever have to reload. Now for augments, we just threw fuel for the fire in here, just because, and the main reason why is we can't go farther down in the tree. I was messing around and using efficiency engine, and I came down to spec into superior firepower, but I believe that this loadout that I'm running right now is a little bit better than that loadout, which it wasn't bad. If you do want to come down here and grab this, if you're going to take points out of anywhere, I'd say maybe take them out of the green tree, and you need that blue tree, so and that's really up to you. But as for the blue tree, we're just going to be using the Vanquisher rocket pods and target softening. Now again, we're not focused on keeping Ironcub out forever. We really want Ironcub to just go away, and Ironcub is doing terrible, terrible damage right now. Even if you were to spec everything into Iron Bear damage as high as possible, get an OGT grenade, it still is this not going to do a lot of damage. Bear Cub is actually extremely weak, so I use it more as a utility, which is this throw on this target softening. Both of Bear Cub's guns are going to become debuffs. It's this going to shoot out missiles that when they hit people, those people are going to take 15% more damage from all sources for a couple seconds. And Bear Cub actually shoots this quite a bit. But not only that, it using Vanquisher rocket pods actually will proc anything that involves splash damage, right? And it's this a good quality of life. So we're pretty much using Bear Cub just as a utility action skill, and not really as like a all around OP damage like Iron Bear can do. But that's pretty much the skill points here. So we can just jump into some gear real quick. Now the gear that I am using is I have a superconducting plasma coil with the URAD anointment to do bonus radiation damage. And the main gun that we're going to be using, which also plays into the name, is the Boogeyman. And if anyone has seen John Wick, you know that he is considered Baba Yaga, or the Boogeyman. And this gun is actually extremely fun to use. You never have to reload, pretty much. So what you're going to do is pretty much this always have this gun equipped, so that way you always have URAD going on, and you're just going to hold the trigger down and chuck grenades at people, and that's pretty much it. When you do kill someone, you have a small chance. I don't know the exact chance, but it seems like it's somewhere between like 10 and 20% of the time that I kill someone, I'll get a Boogeyman to spawn, which a Boogeyman is pretty much like a Death Skull. The modifiers on Mayhem 10, you can get the modifier that will send out like Death Skulls that will hit you and one hit you, and that's pretty much what it'll spawn, but it'll go after enemies. I have noticed it's not a one hit, but it generally does like 4 to 8 million damage, and having URAD on actually does apply to that Boogeyman skull. So generally when it hits anything except maybe boss creatures or monsters or people, it's going to kill them, except for bosses. It will do a hefty chunk though. Now for the shield, I'm using a Supergiant Madcap, which this is actually the first Madcap that I got running through Arms Race, and I couldn't have been happier with it because it comes with 109k capacity, which is this completely ridiculous. And I have on shield break, my next shot does 100% damage. This could be a better anointment for sure, right? Any anointment other than this, because my shield doesn't break, and if my shield does break, I'm gonna go down. I'm gonna die because we only have 1 health. So normally this anointment doesn't come into play. As far as our grenade, we're using a Cloning Manning Tracker. This is the go-to grenade for Moze, and it's always been the go-to grenade. And we're going to have the OGT anointment, so that way our weapon, grenade, and action skill damage is all increased by 25%. Now, again, we don't really care about Bear Cub, so increasing Bear Cub's damage doesn't really matter, but the weapon and grenade is really, really, really important with this build, and you're going to be chucking grenades left and right. So the artifact, we're using a Deathless. You can really use any type of Deathless. This is not my ideal one. I've been farming for days, which is why I haven't put this build out yet, but I've been farming for days to get a perfect Deathless, and I cannot find one to save my life. But you're pretty much going to want AoE on there, and then if you can, find one that has sniper rifle damage. I can't stress that enough. It'll make Boogeyman way better. And the third stat, I would say maybe like grenade damage. As far as the substat at the bottom, that's really like a your pick type of deal. In a perfect world, I would have a corrosive boogeyman with you red, and then I would have a flesh melting deathless. And the reason why is because with the flesh melter, every time you kill someone, you get 10 seconds of bonus, or 10 to 12 seconds of bonus damage with corrosive, and it can stack up to 150%. So it's essentially like a U-Rad, but with corrosive, and that this would make this build even better than what it already is. Now, I do have a God Rolled Minesweeper that I am using, but it doesn't have to be a God Rolled. I would just say look for the splash damage on a Minesweeper and as many into Fire in the Skag's Den as possible. As you can see, I got 5, bringing my Fire in the Skag's Den up to 10. It says 30% bonus incendiary damage, but we all know that it is much higher for some reason. It's getting Mayhem scaling still. So, get as many into Fire in the Skag's Den as possible. There are alternatives. I mainly normally use the Boogeyman, but on some people I end up like Trant. He resists ice and fire. Not that I can't kill him with this, but it's this quicker using the plasma coil, and you're going to see that here in a bit. But as far as class mods, I do switch out between the Minesweeper, the Blastmaster, and a Bloodletter. And I consider this a God Rolled Bloodletter. I know a lot of people don't think the health regen on it is needed, but I consider this a God Roll. And when I'm using the Bloodletter, although I'll lose my Fire in the Skag's Den, you see that I actually have 6 into Desperate Measures now. Increase my gun damage up to 100% instead of 50, and that's always going to be active. And then I also get 2 into Phalanx Doctrine, which is actually really good for mobbing. I would say that if you're doing mobbing and maybe not like bossing, then run with the Bloodletter. But if you're doing bossing, run with the Minesweeper for that increased damage, or run with the Blastmaster for increased damage. So essentially Bloodletter for survivability and Blastmaster or Minesweeper for that bonus damage. But we're on Athenas right now, so we're not really going to need survivability. Anyways, enough of that talking. Let's actually get in here and show off what this can do. Okay guys, so I'm right here by these enemies. The first thing I'm going to do is throw out my Aircub, just to let him run out there and get some aggro. Chuck a grenade, and then, like I said, you're just going to start shooting. And you really don't have to shoot at anyone or anything in specific. I mean, obviously you want to hit the people, but as you can tell, I'm just kind of holding the button down. And it puts in some work. There's a skull. That's good to see. Even though he ran into the wall and didn't kill anyone. That's how the boogeyman won. This guy's resistant to fire, but it doesn't really matter. He gets melted. That dude's melted. These guys are getting melted. Yeah, this is pretty much going to melt everything, and you rarely, if ever, actually have to reload. And look at that, we pretty much cleared out the first room. As you can see, like I said, Aircub does not do shit for damage. He's sitting there and he'll fight this guy all day. He'll literally fight this guy like all day. I've watched in the Malawan takedown, Ironcub trying to take out someone by himself, and this doesn't work. But now that Aircub's gone, I am actually utilizing, that whole entire time I didn't, but with Aircub being gone, Big Surplus actually comes into play. So now I'm doing even more damage. So let's move on to the next area. Now that I'm over here, I'm just going to pop out my Aircub, throw a grenade out, and then just start shooting people. And you're going to see that people just go down extremely quickly. I will point out that I am playing on Mayhem 11. I generally play on Mayhem 10, but I wanted to kind of have a solid base for this test and build show off as compared to having a bunch of crazy modifiers going on. Generally, if you are running any type of modifiers on Mayhem 10, you're going to want to run with More Than Okay Boomer, which increases grenade damage by 25%. As far as other modifiers, it's personal preference. But right now I'm on Mayhem 11. And as you can see this, everyone pretty much dies. I'm going to try to get over here into this next area before my action skill comes back, I really want it to disappear so I can show you guys that that big surplus damage. Alright, so I'm just gonna Bear Cub run out, start shooting. And there you go, Bear Cub's gone. So now I'm gonna pretty much just melt everything in front of me. I thought there was more enemies over here. Okay. And now let's go take out Tron. Okay guys, as I said, I'm not going to be using the boogeyman over here. I'm going to be using the plasma coil. I got big surplus going on. My Iron Bear is gone right now, so yeah, this destroys him. I'm not going to lie, the plasma coil is definitely a more powerful weapon than the boogeyman, but you don't ever have to really reload with the boogeyman. And it's really good for mobbing and for this taking out people far away because it's a sniper rifle. But if you're doing bossing, especially like on Tron, because Tron is resistant to both fire and cryo, and I'm using a cryo boogeyman, and you know we got a lot of fire damage, so he resists it. He would have died if I used this, but it's a much quicker kill with the plasma coil. Now that being said, I actually do have a suggestion. Something I found out is that Selfless Vengeance, you can actually get this to proc and not take away any life. Even with 5 points into this, which normally would take away 5% of your life, right? You can get this to proc and not take away any life if you have a Deathless on, because you being at 1 health, taking 5% of 1 is less than 1, and the game doesn't register that and kill you. So instead, it will just give you the bonus 15% gun damage as incendiary, and it doesn't take away any of your health because you only have 1 health. Now that being said, I'm not spec'd into it right now. Is the main gun, hence again Moze Wick, and never reloading means that I would never actually activate this skill. Now if I was running around with only the plasma coil, which this build is 100% viable with only a plasma coil, like this gun is completely ridiculous. If you were mainly using this, yeah, I'd say go ahead and spec into that, because then you would be reloading more often, and the plasma coil you don't really get too many benefits from ammo regen. But all in all, guys, this build is actually really fun, and I hope you guys go out and try it. It's not too super gear dependent. Like I said, the God roll stuff isn't needed. As you can tell, my artifact is complete shit in my opinion. All you need is a Deathless, and then you're gonna want the boogeyman and the plasma coil, and then you're going pretty much only putting what 9 points into the purple tree. You get in the blue capstone, and then you're just picking up some extra damage and some utility between the other trees. So it's not too gear dependent. This build can do everything in the game. I've already ran the takedowns on True Takedown with it. It's when I got to Wotan, I just switched to the coil so I could kill him quicker than with the boogeyman. But other than that, I used the boogeyman through the whole entire Malamon takedown on True Takedown mode. So, like I said, this build is fun, it's viable. I hope you guys enjoy it, and if you like this content, if you like the videos I put out, then maybe go ahead and leave me a like, or don't. That's really your call. But until next time, you guys, happy hunting, and stay safe, and take it easy.